You heard the baby. Energy extractor.
After waiting with great anticipation, we finally received the next batch of Sonic Prime episodes, so we thought it was now high time to bring the series' villains and other characters into the courtroom to answer for their crimes. Welcome to the Wicked Binge Court. On today's docket today, we'll be sentencing Sonic Prime characters for their crimes.
One day I'll destroy that hedgehog and the world will be a brighter place for it.
And real quick before we start, consider this your spoiler warning. The first character to appear before the court will be a bit tamer compared to some of the others. Captain Jack. For starters, this is not Captain Jack Sparrow or even Jacksepticeye who voices this character, but a former member of Knuckles the Dread's crew. For starters, his actions of leaving the crew, along with other crewmates, were definitely warranted. Anytime Dread is in pursuit of a treasure, he starts to neglect everyone and everything else around him. Fed up by this, Jack left with his crewmates and formed their own crew. It would be fine if it was left at that, but this isn't the case. At one point, this crew, led by Jack, attacks Dread's ship. Jack then tells the crew to take them for everything they've got. It's also implied by Baton Rouge that this isn't the first time it's happened. These actions will lead Jack to be charged with both piracy and theft, since these crimes are committed against his former captain who mistreated him greatly. We won't go as heavy on the punishment here. Jack will spend only 2 weeks in the brig at most, though maybe he'll be given the chance to be let out sooner, as long as he doesn't commit these crimes again. Going from one captain to another, it's time to talk about Knuckles the Dread. His status will not save him here, and he's in a much worse boat than Jack is. As mentioned a moment ago, Dread neglects his crew anytime he goes after a treasure. For this, he will be charged with harassment since this always puts his crew's safety at risk. This doesn't even account for how he will oppose whoever gets in his way of the treasure, such as Sonic or Renegade Knux. He even abandons his crew entirely in Season 2, claiming that, quote, a captain needs to make sacrifices, which definitely lands him the charge of abuse of power. Both of these charges are also repeated offenses, seeing as he did the same thing to 2 separate crews. He'll start with the same 2 weeks in the brig as Jack, but it doesn't stop there. Upon release, Dread will be required to join Jack's crew and work under him for a minimum of 6 months, which will be extended if he steps out of line. Traveling from one world to another, let's bring in Mangy, Hangry, Gnarly, and Prim. These 4 don't have that many crimes to speak of, but there is one in particular that simply cannot be ignored. All 4 of them will be charged with deforestation.
It's the trees coming to get us.
Back in Season 1, they're shown on multiple occasions to be taking way more from the forest than they actually needed, bringing harm to said forest. They weren't really doing this with malicious intent, nor are they seen doing this by Season 2, so their punishment won't be too severe. They'll be required to replace the plants that they've taken excessive food from, and we may end up giving Mangy a lighter sentence since he acts more instinctively and doesn't really think at the same level as others. They're not the only boss cage characters on today's docket. Next is Thorn Rose. She is in a much better place by Season 2, but her actions in Season 1 place her here. All her crimes are connected to how she treats her forest friends. These include the likes of attempted starvation/murder, unlawful imprisonments, and intimidation. When her friends were taking more from the forest than needed, Thorn got really upset. This got to the point where she would whack them away with her hammer, forcing them to live in the treetops and closing the forest floor from there. As a result, they were cut off from all immediate food sources and had to go down in fear to try and find food, while also staying out of Thorn's sight. Her actions also caused harm to the forest, so she'll be sentenced with restoring any plants that were harmed by her actions, as well as helping her friends with their sentence. Given that she wants to protect the forest anyway, this isn't exactly a bad punishment. Moving from one Amy variant to another, let's talk about Rusty Rose. Like with Thorn, Rusty is in a much better position now, but she also did some nasty things before. That being said, it's a little trickier to say what she's actually guilty of, since most, if not all, of what she did happened while she was under the Chaos Council's control and programming. When the Council abandoned her, she started thinking for herself, joined Dread's crew, and worked alongside them to fight against the Council.
Just do not hit the shard.
Since it's a little difficult to find anything bad she technically did on her own accord, she won't be receiving any actual punishment at this time. That being said, she will be asked to continue fighting the Chaos Council until they're defeated once and for all. Next up, we finally have to talk about another resident of New York, Nine. For the most part, Nine is a pretty good person. Most of the things he did that would normally be seen as crimes, especially in Season 2, were done to combat the Chaos Council in some way. But there is one act of theft that needs to be addressed.
No. I'm sorry.
At the end of Season 2, the Paradox Prism was almost completely put back together. With just one piece left, 9 discovered that Sonic's reasons for putting the prism back together were different from his. Understandably, to some degree, 9 was upset by this, but what he did afterwards is the problem here. After pushing Sonic away, he took all the shards and disappeared through a portal. The prism even had an outline of where the pieces should be placed, so you know that's where they belong. But 9 took them away for his own personal reasons. 9 will be required to return the prism shards to their proper place. If he's worried about what will happen to him after the prism is restored, he can work with Tails or any other heroic genius to find a way to make sure all the alternate worlds will remain intact once the prism is complete. From one variation of Tails to the other variant of Sonic, it's time to talk about Chaos Sonic. Like with Rusty, Chaos Sonic's actions could be seen as heavily influenced by the Chaos Council. For now, this might be a slight stretch, but since he is another robotic doppelganger like Metal Sonic, the latter of whom is shown to think independently, we'll act for now as if he can do the same.
2-on-1? Tisk, tisk, that's cheating.
This is especially since he talks about his own plans at one point, such as wanting to beat Sonic to a pulp. As a result, he will be receiving the charges of identity theft, assault, and attempted murder. On top of closely resembling Sonic, Chaos Sonic wants nothing more than to fight and defeat him. He'll also fight anyone who gets in his way. Lastly, while fighting, Chaos Sonic says he will destroy Sonic's friends after he's done with him. Since he's already been destroyed, Chaos Sonic's sentence will forbid him from being rebuilt. If he is at some point, he will be destroyed. All criminals left are some variation of Eggman, but we'll first bring out Dr. Eggman himself. Right off the bat, we'll be charging him with attempted world domination. He has always been known to want to take over the world, and there is no exception here.
Sonic.
He also will be charged with assault and attempted murder. As he tries to grab the Paradox Prism, Sonic and his friends arrive to stop him. Upon seeing this, Eggman shouts for his robotic minions to crush them all. On top of this, since these guys happen to be animals, Eggman will also be charged with animal cruelty. With all this in mind, Eggman will be receiving a life sentence. Additionally, he'll be required to build robots that will help the heroes, instead of fighting against them. If he doesn't agree to this arrangement, he'll receive a death penalty instead. Finally, it's time to bring in the biggest offenders in the show. It's time to sentence the Chaos Council. Since these guys all work so closely together, they'll be sentenced together. We don't even know where to begin with them. They just have so many crimes to answer for, so we'd be here all day trying to list them. They're certainly getting charged with many of the same crimes other characters have already been charged with, such as deforestation, assault, theft, animal cruelty, intimidation, abuse of power, and piracy. That alone puts them in very hot water. For their actions in New York alone, they'll also be charged with endangerment, pollution, invasion, kidnapping, torture, and slavery. Quite a few of these charges can be connected to how they treat 9. After unlawfully imprisoning him, they keep making him work in ways that will benefit them and being nasty to him along the way. With all of this in mind, we originally were tempted to give all of them the death penalty, but that might be an easy way out for them. Instead, they'll be permanently banished to the void. They wouldn't have any gadgets or anything that would ultimately help them escape. On top of that, it's been shown that they sometimes can't stand each other, so let's see what happens when they're stuck in the void with each other and nothing else for an extended period of time.
Don't you take that tone with me?
There's also a darker area of the void where Shadow dropped a Chaos Emerald. If that darkness is anything like Shadow says, their experience could be much worse.